Hi, welcome back to Happy Apple Core Homestead. Today we are going to be canning potatoes. We will be pressure canning them. And in front of me here, I have 5 pounds of russets. These are super starchy, so we will be doing some rinsing of these later. It will take 20 pounds-ish of potatoes to do 7 quarts. That's how much my canner will hold. And behind here you can see I do have my canner. The burners are all off right now, but there's 3 quarts of water in the canner. There is a kettle over there that's full of water that we'll be using later. I also have my tools out. I've got my bubble popper, I've got some clean jars and some rings and lids ready to go. First thing we're gonna do is go over and scrub up all of these taters. This bowl here is where eventually the potatoes are gonna go once I cut them. I have some canning salt here to make a brine that will prevent the potatoes from turning brown. And I think it's like maybe a teaspoon per quart, but I'm just gonna sprinkle a lot in there because we will be rinsing these potatoes probably twice. That said, I will go scrub and then I'll be back. Got my 20 pounds of potatoes all ready to go. I have my salt water here. This is cold water. If you don't have salt, you can use ascorbic acid. It does the same thing. And now we're just going to peel and cut and put into the water. I also remove any blemishes that might be on the potato or any bruising. And the first thing I do is I cut it in half just to double check that there is no rot in the center before I waste my time cutting the whole potato. So I am dicing them. I don't want them too small. The size that you might want in a potato salad or roasted on the stove. And in they go. Okay, so that's that step. I'm gonna go ahead and get all of these peeled and chopped and into the salt water, and then I will be back with you for the next step. I'm back. That took me forever to peel and chop all of these. They've been resting in the salt water that we prepared earlier, and now it's time to go to the next step. I want to talk to you really quickly about why I'm doing what I'm about to do. I'm going to rinse these potatoes in fresh water over at the sink. I'm going to put them back into a pot of fresh water, let them soak for a few minutes, and then I'm going to rinse them again. Typically at this stage, what most safety books would tell you is that you would rinse, throw them back into the pot of water, and then boil them for 2 minutes on the stove. I'm skipping that stage. I'm going to just rinse them twice, and then I'm going to fill the jars, and that's called a raw pack. If you are very, very particular about following the powers that be, then I would go ahead and do your 2-minute blanching. If you want to follow this method, and many canners that have gone before me, and raw pack, I think you will find that they are very safe, very tasty, and the texture is much better. But either way, it's completely up to you. I just wanted to make sure that you all have all the information and all of the disclaimers and full disclosure. So with that said, I'm going to just take my bowl over to the sink. I'm going to do the first rinse, then I'm going to do the second rinse, and then we'll go on to the next step. Remember, this is the stage where if you want to do your 2-minute blanching, you would do it after your first rinse. Okay, then you would rinse that water out and then they would go into jars. Okay, got it? Think I repeated myself enough this time? Sheesh. All right, I'll be back. Okay, there's the potatoes. They are looking pretty good. Some of them are like a tad bit discolored, but I'm not disappointed. And now it's just time to go ahead and fill our jars. You want to leave 1-inch headspace in your jars. I'm going to shake it up a little bit, get them in there nice and tight. I mean, you don't want to overpack it, but a gentle shake won't hurt anything. And I'm just waiting for my water in my kettle to finish boiling. Wash these guys again. At this point, you could add a teaspoon of salt into your jars. I'm not going to. I did a pretty heavy salt brine and I'm happy enough with that. I can season them once I open the jars later. Okay, let's get some hot water onto these potatoes. Okay, this is boiling. And because the potatoes in the jars are cold, I'm just going to, oh, speaking of which, you could, in this method here, just to make sure you don't get any thermal shock, you can put your jars in the oven to heat them up, but I'm gonna risk it. But I'm just gonna put a little bit of water in just to start warming up the jars. Make sure to leave 1 inch of headspace at the top. Now we want to take our bubble popper, just go down to the bottom of the jar and press gently inward to get those little extra bubbles out. Water's a little bit low. And this one has too many potatoes in it. Okay, now you'll take your wet paper towel. Some people use vinegar, I just use plain water. And clean each of the rims of your jars. And the other end of my bubble popper has a magnet, so I'm going to grab my clean lid and set it right on top. And then you want to put your ring on just finger tight. And then into the canner they go. So they're not too hot to handle, so they're just gonna go right in here. At the moment, the canner is on low temperature. And remember, there is 3 quarts of water in the bottom of the pressure canner. I'm going to finish filling the other 3 jars and pop them into the canner, and then I will tell you the next step. All the jars are in the canner, and now we're going to crank this heat up to high, and we're going to set the lid on. Now I angle my canner a little bit facing this way instead of straight out because the steam that comes out of here has destroyed my microwave. Make sure my canner is even on the stovetop. Now, all we have to do at this point is wait until there is a steady stream of steam coming out of the pressure regulator hole. Once there's a steady stream coming up, we're gonna set a timer for 10 minutes. When that timer goes off, we will put the pressure regulator on top. I will be back after we get to that point to go over the next step. Okay, I don't think you can really see it here in the video. I mean, other than here, but here is where we're looking to have the steam, and it is coming out, so we're gonna set our 10-minute timer right now. Now is the time to take a break if you need to, because after this 10-minute timer goes off, we will not be leaving the canner at all. The timer has gone off, it's been 10 minutes, and we're just gonna put the pressure regulator on. And hopefully you can hear me a little bit better. Because these are quarts, they're gonna be processed at 11 pounds of pressure for 40 minutes. Pints would be 35 minutes. If you are over 1,000 feet elevation, check your pamphlet for the times that you need to process. You don't set your timer until you hit the 11 pounds of pressure. I have a stool here and my phone and a book, and I'm gonna sit here and I'm gonna watch it, because the trick is if you get below 11 pounds of pressure, you have to start the timer all over again once you get back up to 11 pounds. So it is just a good idea, especially with this canner. It doesn't have a weight that jiggles. This one does jiggle, but only at 15 pounds of pressure, which is just not what we need today. So I will sit here and babysit, and I do highly suggest you do the same, because you know, this has taken already 3.5 hours and a good amount of food, right? We had 20 pounds of potatoes, and to be careless would to waste all of that time and all of that food. So for food safety, just follow most of the rules. And I say that because I know I do break some rules once in a while, but any rules I break are really tried and true throughout the generations, so don't judge me too harshly. I'm going to go ahead and just watch this. It's at about 3 pounds of pressure right now. I'm going to stop talking to you and start focusing on my canner, and when the 40-minute timer goes off, I will be back to see you with the next step. The timer has gone off. It's been 40 minutes, solid, at least 11 pounds of pressure the entire time. And now the only thing we're going to do at this point is just very carefully lift up the canner and take it off of the burner. All we have to do now is wait until the airlock, this little nipple here, pops down, and the pressure, which is still at 11, goes all the way down to 0. When that happens, we'll go ahead and take the pressure regulator off and let it sit for an additional 10 minutes. The canner has cooled down, and the next step is to take the pressure regulator off and let it cool down for another 10 minutes. So I'm going to set my timer for that. That's 11 minutes, but whatever. Okay, I'm going to take this off. And then we will be back in 10. or 11 minutes to open the canner and unload it. Be right back. The timer has gone off, and I just wanted to make a note that it has been just under 5 hours to complete this process, in case you were wondering how long it takes in real life time. So we're gonna open up the canner, use your mitts because it's still hot. Careful to open it away from your face because there is still some steam in here. Now we're going to take the potatoes out. I recommend if you have, well, I just recommend no matter what, use a towel or two to set them on. So far they look very pretty, not terribly discolored. They kind of look like cooked potatoes. Well, there you go. There are the 7 quarts of potatoes, and we're just gonna let these sit here for 12 to 24 hours, see which ones seal, and then we will date them, label them, and then eat them. Yeah, that's the best part. So I'll check back in with you guys in, I don't know, a day or so, and we'll see what these look like. Have they discolored any more than this? Do they look nice? And did they seal? And then we'll be done. Okay, see you soon. It's the next day and they all sealed, and you can tell by just pressing your finger down, and if you don't hear a little pop, then you know that they're good to go. So we're gonna take the lid, we're gonna take the rings off, not the lids, unless you're ready to eat it. And just as double security, I kind of like to lift them up from the lids just to make double sure that they're nice and tight. And they all look really good. Before we get to just the finishing touches, I just want to make a remark. So these did siphon quite a bit. I like the color. The color looks really good. They're not discolored in any way. These are russets, and I think I mentioned earlier that they're very starchy. And so even though I did the 2 rinses, there's still some starch in here, which, you guys, no big deal. When you open your jar, just throw them in a colander and rinse them out with cold water, and all that starch will come out. And you can go ahead and use your potatoes for, whatever your recipe is. So with that said, we're just going to clean this off. Because there was some siphoning, there's some little bit of sticky parts, kind of in some of these areas here where the rings were. We'll get these all wiped off, and then we'll go to the next step. Now that they're all tidied up, they're cleaned, I've dried them off a little bit, I have some labels that I pre-printed, and it just says what is in there, russet potatoes. These are not organic, I got them from somewhere other than my garden, which is unusual because I don't normally can things that I don't get from my garden, but I did this time, and you know what? There is no shame in that. If you find something for a good deal, can it up. Okay, so we're gonna put the date on the jars. You can put them on your label, or you can put them on your lid. Up to you. Some people reuse their lids. Not that I'm advocating for that. I did these yesterday. All right. The dates are on. Last thing to do is stick your labels on wherever suits your fancy. These are dissolvable labels, so they rinse right off. So I'm just gonna stick them right onto the jar. If you're using non-dissolvable labels, you can stick them on the lid, I suppose, unless you're reusing your lids. Well, folks, that's it. That's how you can potatoes. I've given you the information to do them 2 different ways. So again, back to the siphoning, just really super quick before I finish up with you. I'm not worried about the siphoning. There are tons of people that actually dry can potatoes, which means that they put raw potatoes in or blanched potatoes, and they don't put any water in at all. Apparently they taste great. I've never tried it. Maybe if you have, you can make a comment in the comment section so the people who watch this video know kind of a different method of doing it. I may do it at some point in the future, but that's why I'm super not concerned about the siphoning at all. I think I filled them a little bit too high, but I'm not too worried about it. Thank you so much for watching this video and going on this journey with me. Please comment if you have a question or advice. I respond to every single comment because I believe in building community, and I believe that I am not the authority on anything. So there's lots of things that I could learn, and I just like making new friends. So anyway, that's it. Thanks so much and happy canning. Bye.